Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Jonathan Ellerby with the Althea Center, Denver. And we are, how many times have we done this? 3, 4? We are gathering live online on Sundays, as we always do, and hopefully this time with new people listening and connecting, whether it's live or afterwards. Our purpose at the Althea Center is to awaken the spirit of oneness in all. We are not about any one tradition. We are not about any one practice, but anything and everything that wakes us up to the oneness of life and spirit. And this difficult moment that we are in as a species, as a planet, as a society, as a community, is no exception to the great opportunities that we embrace every time we get together. If you haven't been to Althea before, we also offer workshops and classes. We have a big, beautiful facility that we are not in right now, but we look forward to seeing you maybe one day in person. So a few announcements before we get started, as is always the case. The first of all, welcome. Sundays, 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time USA. We are doing live gatherings with messages and meditations, prayer, and so on to help keep you connected during these extraordinary times. And then we do another live free community gathering on Thursdays, and that is at 11 o'clock, also Mountain Time in the USA. Everyone is welcome to join. Donations are absolutely welcome and encouraged. In fact, with our building closed, your donations are, in fact, what's going to keep us afloat and alive. Yes, we know about stimulus packages, but this is a community, and we do it together, and we do it for each other. So you'll see links and posts for donations. We'd be very grateful for whatever you can do. We had our first class. We had our first online closed group live interactive Zoom class last Friday. We had about 38 people, and it was awesome. So I really want to thank all those people that signed up and joined. That was very special. And we're working on lots of cool new things coming up. In fact, we had a wonderful suggestion from the community that maybe I lead a full day retreat. So what we would do is I would help you open the day with prayer and meditation and teachings. Then you would go off, presumably, into sort of a silent, reflective retreat for the day. We'd meet up again around agreed, let's say, noon, and then we would recenter, refocus, praying, meditating, cleansing, and then we would meet up again at the end of the day. I think it sounds super cool. So if you have interest in that or your own suggestions, please let us know. Also, we now have a Compassionate Caller program, and basically this is just a network of Althea friends and family who either are wanting to reach out and stay connected to other people at Althea or would like another person from the community to reach out and call them. It's not necessarily therapy or anything like that. It's just about staying connected. So if you'd like a call from a compassionate caller, you can message Sarma, our volunteer coordinator, or Susan, or you can probably just leave a note right here. Trying to think of other things I might be able to say by way of announcement. Usually it takes us a little while for everyone to log in and get on. Oh yes, sometime this week, or let's say in the next 10 days, I will be releasing a new book, and I'm excited to share that with all Althea friends and family. In fact, we're going to make the electronic version free for everybody. So hang on, it's coming soon. And I guess that's all I got. There's probably more things to remember, but Susan's going to be there on duty managing your messages. I got my iPad here, so if there's anything urgent that people need to let me know, you can do that through posting here. Susan will message me. We are, by the way, planning an incredible online Easter service. Yes, we will do it online, and we are in conversation with some people from Queen City Jazz Band who might do a live performance online for you. And then we will be doing something special as we celebrate Earth Day, April 26th. And it looks like we will have Sandra Wong, possibly someone else, some of her other great talents and friends joining us for that. So things are good. We are connected and we can keep each other awake and aware and in the heart. So with that, why don't we take a breath? Why don't we get settled in? I got all my books and stuff. And today, after we do our meditation and prayer, we will remember our statement of being. So for people that are in or from the Althea community, the statement of being is a tribute to our founders over, I guess it would be like over 140 years ago. So back in the late 1800s, Nona Brooks and her sisters founded the Extraordinary Divine Science movement and eventually took it to Denver, where the primary teaching was the practice of omnipresence, which means the practice of living with the faith or as though God were everything and everywhere. How would your life change if absolutely everything were Spirit speaking to you and through you and as you? It's an extraordinary practice, and we are blessed with that legacy. So without further delay, I'm going to invite you one and all to take a deep breath. Let your eyes close as you settle into your seat. And wherever you are, let yourself sit comfortably but alert. Deep breath in through the nose, down into the belly if you can imagine that, and then breathing out. Long, slow, full release. With your next inhale, feel the breath drawing down to your belly. If it helps, you can put one hand on your belly, one hand on your heart. And feel yourself slowing down and settling down. As you draw your attention, your awareness into the silent center of your being. The vast, quiet space that holds all thought, all emotion, all experience. As we settle into the still, silent center, we find a place that is untouched by despair and chaos, untouched by the ravages of health or financial struggle. We find the place where the whole world converges. Deep within the stillness we carry lives the Spirit of all things. And so with your eyes closed, and your breath soft and full, we affirm and remember our community statement of being, passed to us through all these generations. God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. And this one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. We are individualized expressions of God and are ever one with this. Perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. Staying with your breath, letting the words and the affirmations settle in. centering your attention and your energy in your heart. Imagine a beautiful light in your heart. Picture it, feel it, imagine it, whatever you need to do to connect to this sense of love and power and blessing and wholeness glowing radiantly inside you. It is the medicine of spirit. It is the love of the universe, and yet it is you, it is yours. And so with your next breath, imagine this light growing, glowing, and filling your whole body and being. Imagine yourself right now radiant with light within. Imagine that light flowing down through your spine, through your pelvis, into your hips, legs, feet, and toes. Imagine it flowing through your shoulders, through your arms, into your fingertips, up through your neck, into your face and head. Imagine, see, feel yourself a radiant being of light. Every cell nourished by spirit. Every aspect of your being held in spirit. And from this place, from this radiant knowing, we pray, each in our own way, and yet together as one. To the one that is all. Divine wisdom, divine love, our source, our substance, spirit, God. May we feel this blessing today. The blessing of peace in our hearts and our homes. A prayer for health and protection of body and household and heart and mind. Restore us to wholeness and keep us well, radiantly well, that all illness, all uncertainty, all despair would lift, would pass, and we would be returned fully to our wholeness in light, to the one that is all spirit, source. We offer this prayer for each and every person alive today. Blessings of peace, health, immediate healing, financial resilience, and love. The wisdom of awakening for all people everywhere. And we offer our hearts special prayers for those suffering, for those in the confusion and panic and terror of losing loved ones, of losing hundreds of community members, of facing their own vulnerability and fears. We are with them now, and they are in our hearts no matter where they are, who they are. Around the world we send this love. We send this energy. We send this power to heal and protect and uplift. Blessings for all the pain and fear and suffering and chaos. May it be transformed and transmuted into the most beautiful wholeness that each being and this whole world needs together. May we heal together in this moment, at this time in history, our relationship to ourselves, to each other, to our planet and all of its creatures, and to all beings everywhere. This is our prayer. We are a part of the transformation and the healing that is felt in every ailing body and heart right now. Through this prayer, we flood the world, hold the world in light, in peace. And we know, dear God, this prayer is no small work. This is our passion. This is our purpose. That we would all rise together in peace, in healing, and see an end to chaos through the highest good of all, with speed and grace. Amen. So, I wanted to start with a reading, and then, yes, I wanted to tell you a story. It comes from Dante and was written around 1300. And in Dante's Inferno, he writes about the process of transformation. He writes about the struggle of the human condition and how we must go deep into our own darkness and struggle before we can arise and rise into the goodness and the light of life. And he writes, this mountain of release is such that the ascent's most painful at the start. The ascent is most painful at the start. Below. But the more you rise, the milder it will be. And when the slope feels gentle to the point that climbing up sheer rocks is effortless, as though you were gliding downstream in a boat, then you will have arrived where this path ends. And I believe that is a part of the promise that is present for each of us today. So, I received a note this week. I don't mind drawing attention to it. And someone said, gee, Jonathan, whenever we do this together in person, you're always telling stories. Long stories, old stories, funny stories, teaching stories. What happened to the stories? Well, I wasn't sure if stories would really translate in quite the same way online and live or recorded for some of you. But I think the point's well made. A good story's always a good thing, right? So I was trying to think of a great story that would be helpful to illustrate what I want to talk about today when we discuss prison, privilege, and purpose, all a part of the process of seeking peace. Yes, it's an alliteration, and there will be a children's book soon to follow. Prisons, Privilege, and Purpose on the Path to Peace by Peter Piper. Anyway, and then I was struck as I remembered a story that I heard a long time ago and far away in my own life. In fact, it was one of the first teaching stories I ever heard explaining the power of awakening, the path of enlightenment, and the significance of opening our hearts and minds to a new way of being. And I realized this is the perfect story for you and for me today. So, do you know when this story begins? Somewhere in the world, somebody is saying, a long time ago. And do you know where the story takes place? Somewhere, someone in the world is saying, far, far away. It's true. Long ago, far away, there was a frog. And this frog lived in a well, a kind of hole in the ground, long and deep, bricked around, and at the bottom, a pool of water where this frog had lived his whole life. And his life was more than satisfying. He was alone but content. He had the water he needed to drink, to bathe, to live. There were plenty of bugs that came down to live around the water. And a beautiful light, a blue disk of light, sometimes gray and sometimes white, dark, of course, at night, that shone down on him, and he was content. Until one day, there was some stirring, rustling way above by the hole. And it turns out that a great big turtle was walking by the well and noticed the hole, and smelling water, the turtle went to the edge and she looked in. "Is there someone down there?" she said. The turtle was shocked. "What? Who is that? What's that voice?" "It's me, Turtle. Is that a frog down there? What are you doing?" "What am I doing?" said the frog. "What are you doing? You must be crazy. Get away from there. You're going to get hurt. No one lives outside the well. Come down here, quick." The turtle looked around. "My friend, I couldn't possibly get down there. I've got this big shell and these clumsy arms, and I don't think you know what you're talking about. It's a beautiful world up here. There's nothing so dangerous or scary. There's a river and grasses and flowers and in the distance an ocean. What are you doing down there, frog? Come up here. This is a beautiful place with a lot to eat for you and probably other frogs." The frog laughed hysterically. Oh my, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The frog said. Believe me, I've lived here all my life. I've never seen any flowers or river or other I don't know what you're talking about, but you are clearly insane. Turtle, I'm going to offer one more time. Come down and save yourself. Or I can't be responsible for what happens to you. You have lost your mind. The turtle looked around and thought, oh my goodness, this poor fella. But what could she do? He couldn't be convinced. And so she said, "I wish you well," pardon the pun, "and I guess I'll see you around." And with that, the turtle went on her way. The frog shook his head and at first laughed all day. What a crazy creature. Another world outside the well. Green grasses? What was this stuff? What's she talking about? And eventually the frog became sad. For the days passed and he never saw the turtle again, and of course he concluded that she must have perished in the terrible, frightening, unknown world above. And so the frog continued to live contentedly until one day, one season, things started to change. The days were hotter and hotter, and the water in the well began to dry up, until one day the frog awoke and realized that the bottom of the well was bone dry. All the insects had left. There was nothing but dust and dirt. The frog was nervous, anxious, didn't know what to do, but certainly couldn't leave this refuge. And so he waited. He waited for the water to return. He waited for the bugs to return, but no such luck. It got worse, drier, dustier, and the frog himself began to perish as he became dehydrated, as he became starved, until he felt the last energy of his life, and he wondered, what if I had enough strength just to climb these walls and see what the turtle was talking about? Maybe I might see something new before I go. I have nothing to lose. And so the frog hopped and climbed and slowly made his way up the tall, cylindrical wall of the well, struggling for energy, exhausted but resting, and then little by little making his way to the top, and then almost with the last strength of his body, he pulled himself up with no hop left to the edge of the well, and he looked, and it was terrible. The blinding light, the rush of noise. He knew it was a mistake. The world was coming to an end. This was his final moment. He cowered. He closed his eyes tightly. And then, nothing happened. He opened his eyes. His ears adjusted, and sure enough, there was light, bright light, blue sky, more than he'd ever seen in his whole life, blue sky everywhere, grasses waving, the sound of wind in the trees, birds singing and moving, and sure enough, not far away, the rushing of a still flowing river. Its water level lower in this time of drought, but still a beautiful river flowed, and he could see bugs flying, and he slowly made his way to the water's edge and flung himself in, where he drank and drank and drank and replenished his body and his skin and his spirit. And with joy he leapt out, and he feasted on bugs like he'd never seen before. Well, you can imagine how the story goes. The frog lives happily ever after. And this story is, without a doubt, the story of every one of us. It is the story of every transition in our life, every fearful change, and there is no question this is the story our world is facing with this pandemic. We are the frog in the hole, and the world as we know it has dried up. And there are some out there who are saying, yes, it's painful. Yes, it's terrible. Yes, the world you know is being destroyed. But there is something more if you take the risk to look. And we say, no, I'm waiting for it to get back to normal. I'm waiting for the world I understand. I'm waiting for what's familiar. I want to be comfortable. I want to be safe. But comfortable and safe don't exist anymore. Not for the frog, and not for many of us. What we face now is only a choice. It's not, what are we going to face? We're facing it. It's not, how did this happen? Who created it? Why do we have this virus? The questions don't matter so much. What matters is, how will you face the opportunity before you? And will you resist the call to move to a new way of being? Or will you stay in the dark, dry depths of the well that you're used to? Now, this teaching story, of course, is usually used in reference specifically to the idea of awakening, and that that people all over the world and throughout time have always been consumed by or distracted by what we consider ordinary, normal life, the life of duality, the life of competition and striving, seeking roles and trying to find our own security, even if it's at the expense of others, living blind to our interconnection and the power of our responsibility, our opportunity to make the lives of others better. This is the ordinary world that we all remain confined to until we engage the spiritual self, spiritual community, spiritual practice. And I don't even mean religion in this case. I don't even mean culture in this case. I mean that we open our hearts and minds to the possibility of connecting to the oneness of our existence, that all things are one thing, that all things are united in spirit and such share the same design, the same potential. And yes, within that divine design, we can choose. We can choose fear. We can choose harm. We can choose violence. But we can also choose something else. We can choose to heal. We can choose to seek wholeness. We can choose to surrender the conditional aspects of life and self. We can choose to give up all of our attachments. We can choose to be curious about what exists when nothing is left. And make no mistake, if you're watching this, no matter how painful and difficult this moment is, you know in your heart, when you stop, when you breathe, when you look around, so to speak, that there is still much to be grateful for. There are people who live a life like quarantine every day for years struggling with economic hardship, years struggling with health conditions that confine them or limit them, years of uncertainty, years of circumstances that feel beyond their control. And we, many of us watching today, we have the privilege that this is only an episode in our lives. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about this story in light of three important things that will help us to bring it to life for ourselves. So what we're talking about is awakening to a life of peace, realizing that the world we see, the world we can control, the world we try to control, is like the world of the frog in the well. But that no matter what our situation is today, if we slow down and if we open our hearts and minds to listen, just listen to the spaciousness of existence, the spaciousness of emptiness and silence, we will discover fullness. We will feel connection. And through our intuition, wisdom will be present. When everything is taken away, we finally glimpse what we truly need. Spirit and our source. And through that knowing, we find within it each other. And the fearlessness to open the heart to all that is. But to truly embrace and understand this takes time, takes practice, takes work on oneself, the willingness to be aware, the willingness to heal and restore, the willingness to love, accept, claim wholeness. And then we have these three words that we're going to talk about today: privilege, power, and purpose. And it's interesting that the analogy of the well for the frog in some ways is similar to the analogy of privilege, in the sense that privilege is something that you cannot see when you have it. You cannot see it until it's taken away. And in the same way, the frog doesn't know a world it's never experienced until it's forced out of it by difficult conditions. And right now, millions and millions of people, regardless of whether they're billionaires or millionaires or living below the poverty line, we are all in a similar kind of condition. And by that, I don't mean a beautiful yacht to live on or a tiny apartment. I mean we're left to a similar inner condition. We are left to face ourselves in the intimacy of tiny circles of real life connection. And so we discover the privileges of our daily life. Let this time of struggle awaken you to a new kind of gratitude for the privileges that you have, whatever your story is, whatever your background is, and regardless of whatever your struggle is. For when we see this much despair in the world, when we see hundreds of people in a single city dying in a single day, when we see widespread fear and panic, whatever measure of peace we have, be grateful. Whatever connection and community we have, be grateful. And whatever has brought us to this moment with resilience, be grateful. This is an extraordinary moment to look back at your life and count your blessings. Count your privileges. The freedom to move, the freedom to travel, the freedom to hang out with people that you complain about later, the freedom to have a job that you complain about later. This is an incredible moment to recognize the privilege that we all have, and perhaps contemplate what it might mean when we move through this to a new stage and era of life. What would it mean to share those privileges? What would it mean to consider extending whatever grace and goodness we have to others? The number of billionaires has only grown and grown in recent decades. And for all those who struggle, a small group of people could simply gather and share a fraction of their wealth and change the lives of millions. These are examples of physical things we can do, but more significant are the emotional things we can do. The way you create opportunity and support for people of different races and cultures and genders and lifestyles. We forget that people live without the privileges we have, and so we move to the next topic, the prison. For many of us, This is a moment where we're struggling with what's being taken away. And people would say, I don't want to embrace this as a learning experience. What do you mean find God in this moment? I would if I chose it. I would if it was a retreat. I would if I was free, but I'm not. I'm not free. So I don't want these lessons. I don't want this spiritual awakening. I want to stay down in my well like the frog. I want to stay in the dry, dusty dirt. And to that I say, if you think that you're free, then you're fooled. If you think that you are any less imprisoned than normal, or any more imprisoned than normal, you've been fooled. We are no more or less free in any moment of our lives, because freedom comes from within. Freedom is your consciousness. Freedom is the infinite presence of your spirit. But the idea that now we are being forced into closure to protect other people, poor me, being forced to give things up. Every day of your life you live forced. You live without choices. Every day you live in prisons that you don't even see. Did you consciously choose your parents? Spiritually, let's not get into that. Did you consciously sign a form and a waiver and say, I'll take this? Did you consciously choose your abusers? Did you consciously choose the school you went to, the color of your skin, your gender, your lot in life? Did you consciously choose the number of jobs that were offered to you? The amount of limit that we live with every day is extraordinary, so this moment is no different. In fact, I would say in many ways, we are more free now. For as the stuff of life is taken away, as the illusion of freedom is taken away, and we are reduced to less, have less, do less, see less, then we live closer to the true freedom that cannot be taken by a prison cell, that cannot be taken by an abuser, that cannot be taken by a tyrant. There is a freedom that lives within us that transcends all situations. And so today, give up the illusion of prisons, because the material world is innately limited. We are never fully free in the material realm, but internally, emotionally, spiritually, we are always free. And we are always able to tune in to that channel of self and perception. And that will not only free ourselves to experience the fullness and the beauty of each moment that we're going through, but it will empower us to share that privilege and release others from the prisons of their lives now and in the years to come. Let us cultivate our freedom together. Let us remind ourselves of our freedom together. And let us not invest so heavily in the things that can be taken away from us. In the things that can be taken away from us. And so we come to the third and final of the lessons, purpose. Of course, there are many ways to hold the conversation. Find your purpose, create your purpose. And I would say right now we've run like a brick wall into the limits of many of the stories and teachings about purpose. Find your role, build your career, create your best life. All this kind of marketing, pardon me, but garbage that leads us to believe that if we finally do something, get somewhere, own something, become important, that we will have fulfilled our purpose. But that's not purpose. That's busy work. That's distraction. That's another privileged prison. In my experience of the world and the way we talk about things at Althea, purpose is a matter of the soul, and everyone shares in purpose. It is not for people who find their calling or their career or find the relationship of their dream or even become the savior to some cause or broken situation in the world. For me, for many of us, the truth of purpose is that we are here to experience what it's like to be a soul on earth. Period. We are here to learn. And as we learn, we awaken to the power to love and to build this extraordinary synergy, this confluence, convergence between spirit and matter, between the divine and the earthly, to recognize in our own everyday lives that it's all one. Now, when we get to Easter, which is coming up quickly, we're going to explore this, for this truly was the great teaching. Whether you're Christian or not doesn't matter. The great essence of the teachings of Jesus was that he recognized that he was spirit first, spirit born, son of spirit, spirit himself. And so life, death mattered not. Triumph over society or torture like a criminal mattered not. The only purpose was to awaken to the truth of spirit. And so all we need to do, as simple as it sounds, is wake up and learn. Wake up and listen. Wake up and let go. Come into the present with the fullness of your senses and discover what simple, everyday life is teaching you. The purpose of the soul is to learn and learn and learn and learn. And through that, yes, all the divine qualities that we hope for, talk about, imagine, they arise. For when you learn with an open heart and mind, love immediately arises, connection immediately arises, our sense of service to others, gratitude for what we have, it arises and arises and arises. So you could call it learning, witnessing, being in the present moment. But you take this experience in and you let it evolve you. Let it shape you. Let nothing escape your journey of awakening. All the boredom, all the darkness, all the fear, all the hope, all the triumph. Welcome it all. And in time, we will find that we and each other leap from that well, from that dark place, and discover a new way of being, a timeless, eternal, universally discovered new way of being. So with that, we're coming to the end of our time, and usually I save just a little bit of time for questions in case there's any burning questions that are shared. Now, our Thursday group at 11 Mountain Time USA, that is much more of a Q&A. I talk and teach and share for about 20-30 minutes, and then we save about 20-30 minutes just for exchange online. But I like to do that as well today. Partly it's the fun of being here live. So you're welcome to comment. You can say hi to each other. If there's any point of clarification that you really need, let me know. But until then, until I see if there's anything, I'm going to check my emails from Susan. Susan, is there anything? Until then, excuse me, let me remind you, Easter's coming up. We're going to have a special message. We're going to do our very best to have a live performance as a part of our online service. Earth Day, the 26th, we're going to do something special as well. Don't forget that. Stay tuned to the Althea newsletter and Facebook page. We are going to have more classes coming up. Some free offerings, some paid classes, lots of ways to stay connected. And I encourage you to reach out to each other. Offer your kindness, offer your support, offer your prayers, and find any way, creative ways to share the beauty and the connection that you're finding now, and to share the humility and the honesty that comes through the fear or worry or anxiety that you're experiencing now. We're here to love our lives completely, to love each other completely. If you'd like to be a part of the calling program, you can send a message here or message Sarma or Susan, and that's the Compassionate Callers program. And it's just really, if you want to stay connected to people in the community, you can be called or you can call people. So I'm going to look down here. I've got a final reading that I'd like to share. I don't see any messages popping up. So maybe we're going to move to a close. Before closing, I want to say thank you. We still have had a phenomenal turnout for the live experience, even though you could watch it later, recorded. I do believe there's something special about us doing this online and live together. If you have suggestions, concerns, feedback, please send them along. We'll check them out. And just know that the board, the in-house team, everyone that helps Althea to operate, we love you. We are grateful for you. We know we're going to get through this, and we believe that we can gather strength together. In this difficult time, we can live and apply all that we teach, all that we believe in. We can learn through every moment. Some will be difficult. Some will be glorious. We can share it all and truly create a new world and new lives together. And so we're going to conclude with a Rumi poem and a little prayer. And this poem you've heard before. I know you've heard it before, but today, when we think about the frog in the well, we realize it means something very personal and very real and important for today. So if you can, if you like, let's take a breath. Let's slow down. Feel the stillness inside yourself and feel your connection. Imagine your connection to each and everyone live here today and each and everyone who ever watches this. When we enter the heart, we are together again. And it is our ability to hold space in this loving awareness that will change the world. As Rumi wrote, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, pandemics, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense anymore. With that, we sit with eyes closed. We connect with the heart. And we engage, activate, embrace our awareness of spirit to the one that is all, our source, our substance, dear God, to the pure existence. We share from the deepest places that we know, with all the energy that we are, a prayer for radical healing, magnificent, beautiful, harmonious transformation. Bless all those who suffer through these days, families who have lost, people who are sick, caregivers, medical staff, delivery people, grocery store staff. We pray for all those still hard at work who risk health and life and their own families. Blessings, protection, guidance, awakening and wholeness for each and all of them. For leaders, a prayer. Leaders everywhere, a prayer to see clearly, to serve life, to release ego. To people, creatures, all beings everywhere. The blessing of love, wholeness, and awakening through these strange and difficult days. Amen. So thank you, everyone. I love you all. And if there are questions, you can send them along. Let's stay connected as a community. Feel free to post inspiring poems and messages and videos on Althea's page if you can, or send them into our admin and let us know what you'd like to share. Truly, we love you, and we are more connected and more together than you may ever truly know or realize. Your donations matter. Your time matters. Your connection here live matters. We need each other. And through that, we can make this difficult time something beautiful for this planet and everyone on it. Mwah. See you later.